Blackhawks fans, welcome to another edition of the Four Feathers podcast. It's a midweek, midday episode with yours truly. I am GM Ron, Mr. Ron Luce. I am solo. Steve is off venturing in his things he's doing. A little bit of a time zone difference as well. It's early for Mr. Kwiatkowski. And of course, Anthony Marchese, unfortunately under the weather, a little bit of a stomach bug taking care of him right now. So I am here because we need to talk Blackhawks. There's a lot going on. It's a busy week for more than just hockey reasons. We'll get into that a little bit later. But the Blackhawks have played 3 games since the last time we talked to everybody on these airwaves, taking care of business against the Tampa Bay Lightning last Thursday. Of course, a little bit of a stinker on Sunday. We'll talk about that one, of course. And yesterday, the Blackhawks defeating the Ottawa Senators by a commanding 7-3 score. Connor Bedard's first career hat trick, obviously the largest headline of that. And that is today's episode title, The Blackhawks Overthrow the Senate. Yes, a little bit of Star Wars inspiration, we'll call it, for today's episode title. But very excited to be back on the airwaves with you talking Blackhawks hockey. Of course, before we get into all the good stuff, be sure to follow along with the Four Feathers podcast at Four Feathers Pod, wherever you find any of your favorite social media accounts for that matter. Of course, head over to YouTube, the On Tap Sports Net YouTube channel, like, subscribe, hit that little bell button. You'll know when we go live. You know when all of our other good shows go live. We got baseball, we got basketball, we got football, you name it, we got it. Be sure to check all of that out over on the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube channel. And of course, likes are appreciated, comments are appreciated. Leave those on these videos when you see them. And if you are listening to us in audio form, we certainly appreciate you listening to us in audio form. And hopefully you'll give us a little bit of a 5-star rating if you love the show. Shall we get into it? Let's get into it. The Blackhawks go 2-1 over the last 3 games, dating back to Thursday on the 23rd. Crazy game in Tampa, right? We saw Spencer Knight stand on his head. Obviously awesome to see. We saw 2 goals from Ryan Donato. We saw 2 points from Frank Nazar, including a very, very nice goal from him to get the scoring started in Tampa Bay. And once again, the Blackhawks continue to play well in the Sunshine State. This has happened the last 2 years now, where the Blackhawks have won on Tampa's ice at Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida. And of course, they continue to take care of business this year with yet another victory. Teuvo Teravainen also had 2 assists in this game. I think this game was crazy, right? So many opportunities that you could have argued where Tampa Bay probably could have won, maybe should have won the game. But the Hawks weathered the storm. Spencer Knight played phenomenally for this team. And at the end of the day, a win's a win, right? We're not going to sit here and nitpick and, they should have done this or they should have done that. It really, what it comes down to is they played, they won, and they got a really clutch goal late in the game off a great chance from Frank Nazar to ultimately win that hockey game in Tampa Bay. And of course, they got a nice little break as a result of it, right? We last talked after the final home game at the UC before they ventured off to Tampa, and then there was that little bit of a dry spell. It's going to be one of 2 times where it'll be a 3-day break. We noted that in the last episode as well, where the Blackhawks won't have hockey. Otherwise, it's a very condensed schedule. For example, coming up, I believe the number is 7 games in 13 days, I want to say is the number that they shared on the CHSN broadcast last night after that Ottawa game. So lots of Blackhawks hockey coming up, but we didn't have a lot of it. And then there was a 2-day break after that before the Blackhawks ventured back home and took on the Los Angeles Kings. Now that game, great first period. The energy was there. The Kings were coming off a back-to-back, so they took advantage of a worn-down Kings team coming into Chicago. The Blackhawks get on the board first. Connor Bedard with a nice follow-up, stays with his shot, is able to finish, gives the Hawks the 1-0 lead. Things were looking good. And then the tide turned, right? This Kings team kind of woke up. They found their legs. A very, very slow second period for the Hawks ultimately was their demise. 2 goals come from the Kings in that second frame. And then, of course, the last goal there in the third period sealed things for Los Angeles. The end of a 5-game point streak. It's been a long time since the Blackhawks have had any kind of point streak in 5 games, let alone in a season like this where, we heard Kyle Davidson last year, right? Oh, this team needs to take a step forward, and they didn't, and they end up with the 3rd overall pick. We're seeing the step forward. After Tuesday's game, 5-3-2, right? We're starting to see this team play better hockey, but unfortunately that skid came to an end. Or pardon me, that streak, I should say, came to an end on Sunday with that loss to the Kings, but they got right. And that's what's most important. And I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of notes of this. Barstool Chicago's own, of course, Barstool chief, friend of the program, long time ago, was probably, I think he was our first ever guest on Four Feathers. He's been talking a lot about like Jeff Blashill and the Jeff Blashill difference. And I really do believe there is some of that here, right? They have a bad game. They don't take advantage of what they need to take advantage of. You hear Blashill talk with the media on Monday ahead of Tuesday's game, and note that it's an important game because you need to get right, right? They had opportunities. They've had some of these teams coming in on what's ultimately literally little to no rest. You need to take advantage of those opportunities when you get teams on the second half of a back-to-back. And they were able to do that on Tuesday, right? After not being able to do it on Sunday. So I really do believe there is a level of Jeff Blashill difference there when talking about the Blackhawks, motivating this team, preparing them properly to then come back and take advantage of it. Of course, it does help having veterans on this team, right? The Nick Folignos of the world, the Andre Burakovskis of the world, the Bertuzzis, the Teravines, guys that have played a lot of hockey in their careers. But you're starting to see the young guys buy into that as well, right? We've talked already in this 7th season of Four Feathers podcast about Wyatt Kaiser, about Alex Vlasic, about Connor Bedard and Frank Nazar. The youth is there. They're building. They're the pillars of this team moving forward. And it's going to be those veterans that need to complement them. And they got right. They got right on Tuesday because not only did Connor Bedard have his first hat trick, and let's dive into that a little bit here really quick before we get to some of the other news and notes of this game. Bedard comes back and he gets his first career hat trick. This is amidst Macklin Celebrini talk all over the internet because of his hot streak now, of him accelerating his play, and he's been really, really good for the Sharks. And that's great. That's great for San Jose. They have a building block for the future. But this also comes after Connor Bedard is seen supposedly out in the city of Chicago, getting a little banged up. And again, we won't confirm nor deny, right? We don't know if it's necessarily him. It might be somebody that looks like him, regardless of it is. If it is him, I'll tell you what, folks. There's a lot of parallels to a young Patrick Kane. And granted, Patrick Kane got in trouble with the law more so than just having a couple 2-tree pops with the boys and maybe the gals at the bar. But there's that kind of that swagger, that demeanor. You saw it when he talked to Darren Pang after the game on Tuesday night following a 4-point performance, right? This wasn't just a hat trick. This was a 4-point performance for Connor Bedard with the assist as well. You absolutely love to see just kind of the moxie that he's starting to develop. You see him growing up and becoming an adult and becoming a 20-year-old and really starting to kind of find his legs in the NHL, and it's resulting in great performances like we saw on Tuesday night. Not only did he score 3 goals, right? Like we talk about hat trick goals, and sometimes like you get a little lucky, right? Maybe one of them is kind of a soft goal, or it's a greasy goal, it's a dirty goal. These were all highlight reel goals from Connor Bedard. Every single one of them. The first one, he snipes it short side up and over Ullmark's shoulder. The second one, he's coming straight down the slot with 5 Senators effectively within a few stick lengths of him, and just with that wicked release of his, rips another one past Ullmark. And then for the third and final one, off the face-off, a beautiful face-off win, by the way, by Ryan Green. Really starting to pay off that he's been playing with Bedard here on Tuesday. Wins the face-off back to Bedard. Bedard's able to skate out of the circle and let it rip for the hat trick. Hats rain down at the UC. It's a thing of beauty, man. If you picked a Tuesday night in the end of October to go to a Blackhawks game, you had a hell of a time watching this young group. Bedard was spectacular. Louis Crevier had a 2-point performance. How about them apples? again, Bedard's first hat trick. Frank Nazar scored a beautiful high effort goal. I think that's going to be a common theme that we're going to see over and over and over again here with Frank Nazar. Frank Nazar is a high effort player. We are going to see a lot of these high effort goals or those high effort plays that result in goals. Maybe not necessarily for him. It's what happened on Thursday night in Tampa Bay, right? High effort play, uses his speed, gets to the slot, rips a shot off of Vasilevsky's pad, comes right to Donato, who's able to bang it home for the game-winning goal. Now we saw it against Anaheim, right? Gets mauled effectively at the offensive blue line, gets up, gets back to his feet, gets in the zone, takes a pass, follows up his own shot for kind of a bit of a greasy goal, but a highlight reel goal nonetheless. And then we saw it again on Tuesday. Ottawa decides it's a great idea with 7.5 minutes left in the third period on the power play to pull their goaltender and go 6-on-4. A great play by Nick Foligno to not only block the shot with his ankle, but also corral and have possession. And then to find Nazar, who then just uses that blazing speed to burn the Senators' defense. They trip him, doesn't matter. He gets up, finishes it off for an empty netter. But a goal's a goal. Another high effort play from Frank Nazar in this one. And speaking of Nick Foligno, had an assist earlier in the game, had the assist on the Nazar goal. Those are points, career point number 600 and 601 for the captain. Awesome stuff. Congratulations to Nick Foligno. 600 points in the NHL is a lot, man. And to be able to play as long as he has, I mean, upwards of, I think this is his 19th NHL season, somewhere around that 18th NHL season. To have 2 points and a win, to watch the young guys coming up. He's that captain that they look at and lead by example with. It's always a plus to see that as well. Speaking of veterans with 2 assists, Andre Burakovsky had a pair of apples in this game. He returns to the lineup after he and his wife welcomed in a new member of the family. Tony and I talked about that on our last show as a part of our Family Matters segment. We're going to address Family Matters again here in a little bit. And then we mentioned Crevier. Colton Dach also, I think, kind of gets undersold just because the Bedard hat trick is obviously stealing the headlines here. But Colton Dach gets his first goal of the NHL season. And on top of that, has been spectacular for the Blackhawks. You want to talk about providing a physical presence that this team hasn't had in a decade, maybe more. He leads the league in hits. He's making that presence felt as a bottom 6 winger, and he's showing he has the skill to provide meaningful depth offense, and that's going to be important in this next era of Blackhawks hockey. They are going to need players like Colton Dach who can provide depth scoring when the big guns are either getting, maybe on a cold streak or getting shut down or what have you. They're going to need guys like Colton Dach to be able to provide some offense, and he's able to get the scoring ignited on Tuesday night, which obviously led to the big offensive explosion for the rest of the team. I'll tell you what, this team is so fun. This team is so fun. Buy in now if you aren't already. Yes, there's going to be some stinkers. We just haven't gotten to those yet. There's going to be 1 or 2 stinkers probably between now and I'll say probably American Thanksgiving. But this team is fun. They have a swagger about them that we haven't seen in a long time. You're seeing the kids grow at the NHL level, and we're seeing other kids grow at the minor league level. We're going to talk about that here in a second as well. But this team is unbelievably fun. I know I'm bought in. I know the rest of the Four Feathers crew is brought in. This is the team that I'm having so much fun watching. I'll tell you what, if you follow On Tap Sports, that you know that I'm regularly appearing on Bears on Tap. I love doing those shows with Q and with Sonny and with our special guest Brendan and of course with Samir. I look forward to sharing the mic with Samir at some point in the future. I love doing the Bears. Football is my favorite sport. I played football as a collegiate athlete once upon a time. It's a beautiful sport. But right now, the team that has my focus in this city is this Blackhawks team. They're awesome to watch. It's such a different product from years past. It's been a long time since the Blackhawks have been this exciting to watch. And this is the time to start falling in love and buy in and get excited about this team because as I mentioned on the last show with Tony, this is that the build on the roller coaster, right? We're going up. This is the click, 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 click to get you to the top, to ride the ride. And hopefully that ride includes multiple playoff appearances over the next decade, maybe a Stanley Cup in 4 to 5, 6, 7 years. Who knows? Competitive hockey consistently from this team with this core that Kyle Davidson has built. But this is the fun part. This is the up and up. Like if I'm gonna draw a parallel, because frankly, it's not apples to apples. I'd call it more apples to oranges than anything else. But if we're trying to have an apples to apples comparison here, this is like Taves and Kane's first year in the league, right? You had the Robert Langs of the world. You had Martin Havlat. You had some of those players already on the roster. But then there was a buzz about this team because the young guys coming along. Dustin Byfuglien was a part of that team. We saw Adam Burrish. We saw Taves and Kane, obviously. Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook were in place. There was that build. And granted, their build was a lot different because the pain points of the build that we've experienced as Blackhawks fans over the last few seasons came earlier, right? In Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook's rookie years, they were trying to supplement with some veterans at the time. Martin Havlat is a perfect example of that. Nikolai Habibulin, eventually bringing in Brian Campbell. And then they got Taves and Kane toward the end of that rebuild and then took off, right? And Patrick Sharp was already here and Nicholas Hjalmarsson. This is a little bit different because you get your big guns at the beginning of the rebuild, right? Your first draft for Kyle Davidson as general manager, it results in getting Frank Nazar and Sam Renzel in the same draft class. And then the next year you win the lottery and you take Connor Bedard. And then last year you go ahead and continue adding talent to this lineup in the form of Artem Levshinov, who, again, I know that's a hot topic right now. Steve Kwiatkowski did a great piece, a part of his Blackhawks news and notes and Blackhawks on tap articles, kind of discussing the Artem Levshinov stuff. But you're hoping he's a player that continues to grow a little bit more. You're able to add, right, Oliver Moore, who's been really good. Again, we're going to get to him in a second as well. They're building, they're getting their big pieces earlier in the rebuild. And some of those pieces are still coming, right? Anton Frondell, potentially Roman Kanserov, some of these other guys that are over in Europe right now. There's a lot to be excited about. Buy in. That's my message after these last 3 games. Buy in, have fun, watch this team. If you have CHSN, great. If you don't, hey, I don't think there's anything wrong getting the app. I really don't. And again, you do with your money as you choose. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to spend your money, but I'm going to tell you, if you want to watch quality hockey in the Indian head sweater, this team's fun, man. They're fucking fun. We got a good friend of the program here in the comments. Steve Paradzinski 1422 says, "Hi, Ronald, longtime guy here. Is fun #back or #too soon?" I think it's #back, Steve. I think it's #back. The fun is here. Maybe the playoff appearances aren't here quite yet. And we'll see how this year goes. I'm not going to sit here and naysay it. I'm not in that camp anymore of this team's not going to be good. I preached my patience for the last few years. We can still get excited about this team. I hope they're competing for a playoff position late in the year, because that's just going to help the development of these young players if they're playing meaningful hockey in February and March and early April. It's fun. The fun is here. The fun is #back. Maybe, and I'm saying maybe with a heavy shrug, maybe it's #too soon to talk about playoffs. But the fun is here, and the fun is back. And it's really, really good to be a Chicago Blackhawks fan right now. Dudes, what's up, Skokes? How's it going? Good day. To others in our comment section. We welcome everybody here that's joining us during this lunch hour. We hope you're enjoying this episode of the Four Feathers podcast. Let's keep moving forward. This might just become a recurring segment at this point, but the kids are hot. Nick Lardis tied for the AHL lead in points after Tuesday's game against the Chicago Wolves. Fun fact about Frank Nazar, I got Frank Nazar in the brain. That's my guy. About Nick Lardis, 7 points in 2 games against the Chicago Wolves so far this year. Talk about this guy liking to beat up on a Central Division rival in the AHL. But he's got 4 goals, 8 assists. He had a 3-point game on Tuesday. It was one of those crazy school day games. It was an 11 o'clock start at Allstate Arena up in Rosemont, just outside of Chicago, up near O'Hare Airport. And I'll tell you what, the Ice Hogs showed up and they showed out. Brett Cini was heavily involved. He's off to a great start. He's continuing to show why he's an important veteran to have down in Rockford and just keep re-signing him to new contracts and keeping him in Rockford and letting him be the captain down there because he's able to produce at the AHL level, but he's also able to help these kids develop and play good hockey. And who knew we would talk about Brett Cini as being an important piece of the Blackhawks rebuild? But he is. He has a role here. He's got 10 points on the season already. And then we look at Oliver Moore, 9 points in 8 games played. He's got 6 goals already this season. Had a couple more points in that win against the Wolves as well. The Rockford Ice Hogs are fun, ladies and gentlemen. If you're struggling to get to the UC, it's the holiday season. Maybe the money's not quite there yet to splurge on those Blackhawks tickets that you want, but you want to go experience some live hockey. I-90 will take you right to Rockford. You can get there in about 90 minutes from the Chicagoland area. And they play the Wolves at a nauseating clip in Chicago. You get up to Rosemont, anywhere between 15 and 45 minutes, depending where you are in the Chicagoland area. Go watch these young Ice Hogs, man. They're going to be fun. And I don't know how much longer Oliver Moore is going to be in the AHL or Nick Lardis is going to be in the AHL. We don't know that. We don't have that information. But while they're there, if you're looking for good competitive hockey that's economic and you can bring the family and things like that, man, go watch these Ice Hogs. They're fun. They're a lot of fun. Drew Comesso's been great. He's setting franchise records right now for the Ice Hogs. Kevin Korchinski's played very well. He's got 6 assists in 7 games. The list goes on, and they're going to continue to add prospects to that AHL pool, right? Eventually we'll probably see AJ Spalacy there. Eventually we'll probably see maybe a Jack Pridham there. We're going to see a lot of these names continue to be added to Rockford. And the Blackhawks have an absolute shit ton of draft picks still to come. 8 picks coming up in this year's draft. They've got a bunch of second rounders. Or it might even be 9 picks. I'll double check my math. But you have 2 firsts. I believe they have 3 seconds in this coming draft. They have their 3rd. And then I think they have a 4th and a 7th or something like that. They're going to continue to add high-level talent that's going to continue to play in Rockford. If you want to go watch these guys while they're young and before they're Blackhawks, it's well worth checking in on the Ice Hogs. Or you can head over to Flow Hockey. OnTap Sportsnet has we have an affiliation with Flow Hockey, so that's some stuff we can start sharing with you guys if you are interested in being able to watch the Ice Hogs on a regular basis. Other news and notes with the prospects. Anton Frondell, interestingly enough, has been playing pretty low in the lineup over in the SHL. Was on the 4th line in their most recent game. Was the extra forward recently as well. Just playing lower in the lineup. Not sure if it's just. I don't think it's play result. I mean, he's one of their leading goal scorers. His plus minus has been fantastic. Maybe it's something the team's trying to send a message. We don't know, right? It's hard when you're on the entire other side of the globe from where he's playing right now to know what's going on with Frondell. But he's still playing. He's still in the lineup, which is always good news. And he's been fun to watch, and we'll certainly keep an eye on him as well. And then Roman Kanserov, this guy continues to put up points in the big dog league of the KHL as well. 20 games played, 21 points, 13 of those are goals. I believe that number is still good for the KHL lead. And if it's not good for the KHL lead, it's among the top 3 in the KHL for sure. He's been spectacular. Again, as Tony and I discussed last show, he's the guy I'm kind of keeping an eye on because I feel like he's just such an anomaly and a wild card. And we don't know how he's going to look when he comes over to North America. But when he does, I think it's going to be he might be one of the gems that Kyle Davidson found in the 2nd round with all those picks. That was something that was largely, I'll call it poo-pooed for lack of a better term here, about the Bowman administration, was that they couldn't develop 2nd round talent. Like NHL teams, you need to be able to develop 2nd round talent into stars or quality role players because just by the odds, guys in the third round and later don't normally make the NHL or stick long term or become more than just depth guys. It's your first and your second round picks that you really got to hit on. And the Hawks were awful at hitting on second round picks under Stan Bowman. And they traded all their first round picks to stay competitive in the Taves and Kane era. So they weren't really able to develop a whole lot. Brandon Saad was a hit. He was a second round pick. You think back to Andrew Shaw was a fifth round pick, but those are really the big notable pieces that Stan Bowman was able to kind of claim credit for as part of his drafts. If the Blackhawks can continue taking these shots with guys in like the second and third round, Nick Lardis was a third round pick. Roman Kantarov was a second round pick. You got to hit on those guys too. If they can continue to hit on those guys, it's going to be very fruitful for the future as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Roman Kantarov as we move forward. Let's keep this thing going. Family matters once again. Last time we mentioned the Burakovskis welcoming another member of their family. We wish them congratulations. Nick Foligno has returned to the team. His daughter's doing great after her surgery. Incredible news. Awesome to hear. But the Bertuzzis also welcomed another child as well. So congratulations to the Bertuzzis. We didn't want to exclude them, but we learned of that after our last show. So lots of love and new family members all around the Blackhawks family. In terms of the injury report, Ilya Mikheyev did not play on Tuesday. He was out against Ottawa. On Sunday, he kind of took that weird hit into the boards. Blashill didn't seem too concerned about the injury long term. He did not skate on Tuesday, though, so that is worth noting. Bertuzzi did skate on Tuesday, and he returned after the birth of his child. So we'll see. I think it's on a we'll see basis right now with Ilya Mikheyev. Again, a guy that's continuing to show why he's important to the team. And if you've listened to the Four Feathers podcast over the last couple of seasons, we would have told you that right when he was traded to the Blackhawks, that he could be a very important piece, and he has been so far to this current regime of Blackhawks hockey. He's been fun to watch. I love Ilya Mikheyev. I hope he's back in the lineup as soon as Thursday when they travel up to Winnipeg. But we'll certainly keep an eye on that as well. Just because it's a solo show, folks, does not mean we are without our habitual segments. So why don't we get those things started?
It's time to ruffle some feathers.
Let's ruffle some feathers, shall we? I'm ready to ruffle some feathers. This one might not be as controversial, especially to Blackhawks fans. So maybe this one resides with fan bases outside of Chicago that want to kind of shit on Bedard and take their shots at him when they get the opportunity. Let Connor be Connor. Just let Connor be Connor. We mentioned a little bit earlier about the viral video that shows Connor Bedard and what looks like him being a little banged up at a local watering hole establishment in the city of Chicago. But I'll tell you what, the guy's an absolute fucking gamer. He comes out, puts up 4 points in the next game, had a goal in the game before. We referenced back to that Anaheim game when he had 8-9 shots on net, nothing was going in. Sometimes these guys just need to let off a little bit of steam. And it seems like Connor Bedard's got some Patty Kane to him. They're not the same player, but they got that swagger and just kind of that demeanor about him that you got to just let Connor be Connor. Because when Connor Bedard is humming, he's one of the best players in the NHL. And there's a reason that he's had all these generational, comparisons over the years. Is because he's got that ability, and you just got to let the kid be a kid. There's growing up to be done, right? We were all that age at one point in our lives, and to those that are younger, you have that to look forward to. It's a time in your life that you do a lot of growing up, and you do a lot of finding yourself and all that stuff. But it's true, right? It sounds goofy, but it's true. And I think everybody needs to just let Connor be Connor. Let him be Connor, and he's going to continue to put up good results on the ice. Obviously, his teammates love him. Everybody seems to love him in the organization. But he's a kid, and let him be a kid, man. And I think as long as that's the case, I think he's going to do great things. As long as the microscope isn't too dialed in on him at all times, I think we're going to see the best version of number 98. So, again, I don't think that ruffles anybody's feathers in the Blackhawks community, but to all of you outside of Chicago that want to take your shots at Connor Bedard, shut the hell up and just stay away. We're going to tell you right now, just stay away. Let's keep this thing moving. Another segment here.
Time to give out some stick taps.
Let's give out some stick taps, shall we? I'm going to give out stick taps, not to a player, not to a person, not to a coach, rather an entity of the organization. That's the Rockford IceHawks. Because I think what really went under the radar over the, I'll call it the grand scheme of the rebuild in the last few years, was the Blackhawks not only purchasing the Rockford IceHawks, but investing a lot of money in the Rockford community and investing a lot of money into this team and their development program, because we are starting to see the fruits of that labor. And I think that was something that was very important to Kyle Davidson when he took over as general manager, was investing in the future by way of Rockford. You know, we've talked about it here on Four Feathers, and I think Steve brings up a great point. The AHL is not the top developmental league anymore, right? It's a place to play and refine your skills and work on things, but these guys got to develop either in the juniors, or they have to develop at the collegiate level, which we are now starting to see the NCAA as one of the best collegiate, or pardon me, is one of the best developmental entities in the sport of hockey. If the Blackhawks can utilize their AHL space as a developmental platform for their talent, that's incredibly important to the future of this team, not just right now and not the next wave, but the continued success of those waves going beyond the current regime. We look at like what the Tampa Bay Lightning have done. They've consistently been a great team for 2 decades now. A lot of that is because players are getting to Rockford. They're able to develop, or, in Tampa, they get to Syracuse, they develop a little bit. And then when Tampa needs them because of cap and whatever, they come up and they develop into great players. Anthony Cirelli is a great example of that, right? Was a young player with the last regime, now is a fixture of that team. The Blackhawks want to get to that point, right? We've seen Vegas be able to do it a little bit. We've seen teams like Carolina be able to do it a little bit. The teams that are consistently good and consistently competitive are able to develop talent while still being competitive at the top level. So I accrue credit to the IceHawks, because we saw it dating back to Alex Vlasic. We've seen it with a player like Louis Crevier, who's developed into a really nice seventh defenseman for this team. We've seen it with Wyatt Kaiser, who was regularly on the bus back and forth on I-90 last year, to and from Rockford to work on things, and he's really developed his game. We're continuing to see it right now with Kevin Korchinski. We saw it last year a little bit with Frank Nazar. We're seeing it again right now with Oliver Moore and with Nick Lardis. Rockford is going to be more important than I think people realize to the future success of the Blackhawks. So stick taps to them, because not only are they having success on the ice right now, right? They're putting up wins. These guys are putting up high scoring point totals, but they're also developing talent. And I think that's critically important. Before we look at what's on tap next, a great question here from good friend of the program, one of my Bears on tap co-hosts, Mr. Sonny Verma. He asks, are you worried at all that the attendance has been down? Sonny, I'm not too worried. And here's why. Early season is always tough. When the team's not adequately competitive immediately, I think it's difficult to get people in the building. I also think there's just too much other things going on right now, right? So many people are fixated on the World Series. So many people are fixated on, high school football, right? In the state of Illinois, IHSA playoffs begin this week. College football is still in full swing. The NBA is starting up now, so people are tuned into that. Halloween is this coming weekend, right? There's a lot that I think people are also focused on, that a Tuesday night isn't always going to draw greatest attendance. Also worth noting, Sonny, this was a 7:45 start. So if families are coming with kids, that's not an ideal start time on a Tuesday night, right? You probably want that game to be at 7 o'clock. For corporate and things like that, and those kind of guests, they might also feel the same way. It's a little too late after work, where people might not want to go directly from work. So I think the start time, honestly, might have had something to do with Tuesday's game. That's really been the biggest down attendance per se. They still had 15,000 people in the building. Like, this isn't the early 2000s where they were barely able to scratch by with like 6,000 people in the building, right? We haven't gotten to that point yet. I think if we trend toward 12,000 in the building, I mean, even we'll call it 14 to 13,000 in the building, then I'm concerned. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this road trip, especially, they go on this road trip and put up huge points. I think people are going to start to buy in more. The CHSN viewership will go up, which I think that in turn will make that attendance number go up. I'm not too concerned right now. I think Tuesday was a little bit of a fluke. And guess what? The people that decided they didn't want to go to the game Tuesday, they missed a hell of a game because Connor Bedard was able to put up his first career hat trick. So, certainly something that I think was interesting. Ben Pope does a great job tracking the attendance over the course of the season. So, Sonny bringing this up is very relevant. It was their lowest attendance in quite a few seasons now. I don't think there's any concern with that. I think that's just a fluke. I hope it's a fluke, but we'll certainly keep an eye on that as we move forward. Speaking of moving forward, let's move forward here with what's on tap next. The upcoming slate of games, there's 3 games coming up here in the near future. We will probably be back with you after that third game that we're going to look at here. It's a 6-game road trip for the Blackhawks. 5 of those are out west. They end the road trip with Detroit before getting back here in mid-November at the United Center. But Ron Luce gets married this weekend, folks. So we'll be a little unplugged for the rest of the week from Four Feathers. But we certainly hope everybody continues to watch these games, and you join us early next week when we're back to talk more about this Blackhawks hockey team. They will play tomorrow when I am recording this here on Wednesday, October 29th. So Thursday, October 30th, they are at Winnipeg. That's a normal start time. Winnipeg, believe it or not, folks, if you don't know where Winnipeg is, look directly north of Rockford, Illinois, and you'll run into Winnipeg. So still Central Time Zone. It's a 7 o'clock start on CHSN. It's the first time that the Blackhawks will play Jonathan Toews now that he is a member of the Winnipeg Jets. So that one will surely be one that fans want to tune into to see number 19, albeit in a different uniform. Then the Blackhawks will begin that westerly road trip, as we mentioned, Saturday, November 1st. It's a 9 o'clock start Central Time on CHSN. They will be at Edmonton. Obviously, the Oilers are a great team. That'll be a good test for this young Blackhawks team. How do they match up against a team that has represented the Western Conference at a nauseating rate over the last few years in the Stanley Cup Final? And then, of course, they'll continue that pretty much every other day up until the conclusion of the road trip. But Monday, November 3rd, they will play the Seattle Kraken in Seattle. That's also a 9 o'clock start on CHSN. We will absolutely be back with you before the next haul of games. They will also then venture along to play, I believe they play the Canucks and then the Calgary Flames and then the Detroit Red Wings is how they conclude the trip. So we look forward to it. I know Tony's looking forward to it. He loves some late night hockey. I know Steve looks forward to it because he can actually watch the games because they're more in his time zone being out west. And I'll be excited about him because for me, just a lot of things are winding down and there's nothing better than a little late night Blackhawks hockey. It's starting to become good for me too. And I'm starting to appreciate the late night games a little bit more than I think I used to in my younger years. So that is what's on tap next with these Blackhawks. But I thank everybody for tuning along. There's a more active comment section than I was expecting in the middle of the day here. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of the Four Feathers podcast. This is season 7, episode 7, as the Blackhawks overthrow the Senate and take down the Senators on Tuesday night. What a great game. And hopefully they're able to take some of that momentum and bleed it into Thursday's game against Jonathan Toews and the Winnipeg Jets in Winnipeg. Until then, of course, again, please head over to the YouTube, like, subscribe, hit that bell button, leave a comment, tell us how we're doing here at Four Feathers. We appreciate every single one of you for tuning along with us. The Hawks are fun. They might be back, but they're really, really fucking fun right now, folks. And it's a great time to get fully strapped in for the rest of the season because they are going to be enjoyable from now until April. I am Ron Luce, GM Ron, signing off from the Four Feathers podcast. And as always, let's go Hawks.